This looks like a tiny animal crawling across a dark board. But there is no animal here. There are only squares. Look closely. The yellow shape is not moving like an insect. Old cells turn off. Fresh cells nearby turn on. Your eyes connect these flashes together and create motion. That trick is the heart of Conway's Game of Life. No brain, no leader, no hidden command. Just 3 tiny rules, repeated again and again. First you see the illusion, then you see the rules behind it.
By the end, this empty grid will feel strangely alive. So start with the simplest question. What can one square know?
Imagine a city where every window is one living pixel. A bright window means alive. A dark window means empty. But each square has only a tiny field of view. It can only count the 8 cells touching it. It cannot see the whole board. It does not recognize the pattern. It only asks, how many living neighbors are there right now? This local count creates the next frame of the world. One tiny decision is boring. Millions of decisions create a scene.
That is why the board can surprise you without understanding itself.
Now give every square those same 3 rules. The first rule is brutal. If a living cell is too lonely, it dies. 0 or 1 neighbor is not enough to stay alive. The second rule is stable. With 2 or 3 neighbors, it survives. The cell has enough support, but not too much pressure. The third rule is crowded. With 4 or more neighbors, it dies. Too many lights around it destroy the cell. And then comes the only rule of birth. An empty square with exactly 3 living neighbors turns on. That is it. Dying, staying alive, or being born. The algorithm is small. Its behavior is not. Focus on one empty square in the middle. 3 neighbors around it turn on. The board counts them, and the empty square changes state.
It is not magic. It is just a rule firing at the right moment. But visually, it looks like a spark appearing from nothing. It is a tiny birth. A chain of births creates motion. That is why watching the Game of Life is so addictive. Every new cell is a tiny moment of suspense.
Now release that same rule across a whole field of cells. Watch what happens when every square follows the same law. At first, the board looks like meaningless noise. Random cells blink, collide, and disappear. Weak shapes vanish quickly, but a few structures survive the storm. Some become quiet blocks that never change. Some become blinking patterns, pulsing like a heartbeat. Some patterns do the strangest thing. They move, not because the cells travel, but because the shape repeats nearby. Chaos turns into a small zoo of behaviors.
This is the first big discovery. Order can grow out of noise.
Meet the famous traveler, the glider. It looks like a creature sliding across the grid. But if you freeze the illusion, you can see the trick. One group of cells dies. A nearby group is born. The shape reappears a little farther away. Your brain reads the repeated shape as motion. It is like a flipbook made from dead and living squares. No square crosses the board. The pattern crosses the board.
That is why this tiny grid feels more alive than it should. The rules are simple. The results are not.
The board is full of different characters. A still life survives by doing almost nothing. An oscillator repeats the same move forever. A spaceship rebuilds itself in a new place. Every behavior comes from the same 3 rules. There is no special rule for gliders or blocks. The patterns are discoveries, not instructions. That is why people have explored this simple board for decades. Every generation reveals something the previous one missed. One rule set creates an entire zoo of motion, and this zoo keeps getting bigger. When moving patterns collide, the board becomes more than beautiful. Signals can approach from different directions. A collision can destroy them, preserve them, or deflect them. That means patterns can carry information. With enough careful design, this tiny world can compute.
This is not a screensaver. It is a small universe of logic.
The trick is that global behavior comes from local rules. No cell decides the map, but the board still acts in organized ways.
The magic is hidden between the local and the global. Now step back and see the bigger idea. Scale changes everything.
Up close, every cell is simple.
It just counts neighbors and follows a rule. But from far away, the board looks like a living system. There is motion, rhythm, memory, and surprise.
No single cell understands any of that. The big pattern is what the group builds together.
This is called emergence. Small local actions create large-scale behavior. And the game of life lets you watch that idea in motion. So the whole story comes down to 3 rules.
Lonely cells die. Balanced cells survive. Exactly 3 neighbors create a new cell. Repeat these rules across the whole grid. A dead board becomes a world of patterns. Complexity does not always need a designer.
Sometimes it only needs a repeating rule.